secretly brilliant. Who, Adam? Adam is exposed for being gay right now. Yeah, Jesse Lee Peterson is, oh God. Okay, guys, stop saying Adam or JLB. Jesse Lee Peterson is actually in the closet, or not even in the closet. I think he was like exposed as being gay. It's something that still pisses him off whenever you bring it up. It's the one way to end that conversation, no matter what. Like if you want to actually get him on something, you bring that up and he loses his mind. Okay. Did you bring it up? No, I didn't know he was gay at the time. Chatter saying JLP isn't actually sub 60 IQ for me is like that guy finding out professional wrestling is fake. Yeah. Beta is the other thing that is another talking point that he spams. Beta. Hawktua is back. Can we watch yours after? No. I'm tired. He's faking. I saw Jesse on Sunset reading a book on quantum physics, riding a tricycle one time. I'm tired. I'm gonna go hang out with my mom.
It's often been said, even by me, that with 8 billion people on this planet, it's silly to think that you're meant to be all alone, that there's no one out there for you, or that there's nobody out there that will like you. It's an outrageous way of thinking, or so I thought. Today I was introduced to what I believe is the first documented case of a human being that is truly destined to be all alone, a friendless, loveless loser that has a biography that's equal parts fascinating and frightening. He wrote a 10-page manifesto about himself, pitching him as like a potential partner or even a potential friend to somebody on the planet. It's on an app where people go to make friends internationally, as I understand it. And this guy has wrote down something that you'd find scribbled on like the walls of a padded cell. But I don't believe that this is a real person. I think someone made this account to try and frame someone they don't like into looking like a fucking psychopath. Now, I saw this floating around a lot with people clowning on it, and that's how I saw it. Matt sent it to me because he was giggling about it. I don't think it's real. Like, someone actually sat down and spent a lot of time writing this, but I don't think they did it earnestly. This bio is just some parts of my personality. I can be serious, I can be hilarious, I can be sneaky sometimes. I don't even understand myself. I think I'm crazy, but the whole point is Noi here for fun. It's with the doodle bob there. Manoy, mamoy, moy, manoy. I'm just here to ruin your life. I'm going to tease your mind, making you thinking about me 24/7. Before anything, I need you to get rid of your vibrator, dildo, or whatever you have, even your boyfriend, because you don't need that anymore. And then wacky emoji. By the way, I am redacted. And then the birthday. He's coming out the gate swinging here. He's immediately off the rails. Everything's caps locked. This reads like a PSA, like something the CDC would put out during a listeria outbreak. And, you know, he's saying, throw away your dildo, throw away your vibrator, throw away everything you thought you knew about penis, because I'm going to change the very definition of what cock even means. I'm going to take you to a new dimension of pleasure. We're going to, you know, check these fake wieners at the door. You're going to get the real thing with me. Don't worry, this handsome man can't be pervert, even if I ask for maybe that is examination, hope you fail. Man, I can't parse what the fuck that's supposed to even say. That is actual just jumbled nonsense hooey. What examination was failed? The pervert exam? Oh man, that's rough. He's got to go back to pervert class. And we live in 2025. Corn is everywhere. Just replace the C with P. I'm explaining that because I know girls are not that smart. Come on, like this is clearly written by some homunculus here. It's meant to be bad. Like it feels like it's just rage bait. Don't exactly get why you'd be making a rage bait profile on an international friend finding app that's apparently not that popular from what I can tell. I don't know what the goal is or what you accomplish. Maybe it was written by some like 15 or 16-year-old out there somewhere that thought this was just like the best joke ever on one of their classmates. I don't really know, but I'm pretty confident in saying that this isn't real. But they definitely spent like 2 or 3 hours writing this fucking thing, because not even ChatGPT could spit out something this garbage. I'm single though, don't waste this opportunity. Ain't saying this is gonna be easy for you, but who knows. I have many hobbies like reading, working out, boxing, punching everything I find, listening to music, and I do watch a lot of series and movies. Netflix just mailed me this. Sir, you just watched all our content, please find girlfriend, so here I am. Real quick, there's no punctuation here, so I'm just kind of reading this all in like a fucking speed run. But the fact that he wrote that, even ironically, it just puts puke in your mouth. Sir, you just watched all our content. Please find girlfriend. Netflix mailed him that. Wow, what a zinger. And the next paragraph, I'm surprised he didn't drop a "rar holds up spork." Oh, fuck. So at the bottom there, he mentions an Instagram handle and then says that he sends great reels, so get your ass over there and bring some snacks. You know, get the popcorn because it's going to be quite the show. And I'm pretty sure that's not the actual Instagram of the person who wrote this. I really think this is just written by someone that wants people to go to that Instagram and make fun of the guy. Because it's all just a bunch of fucking baloney. I don't say compliments, and I'm not the type of guy who's gonna start saying some bullshit like "you gorgeous" and "I can't live without you." I might say stuff when I get excited, but I'm more reasonable, so you are lucky if you heard a 1 or a half a 1. Actually, like the owl from the Tootsie Pop commercial. A 1, a 2, a 3. And never mind if you didn't read the whole thing. Don't worry, I'm not mad at you, or am I? Definitely gonna kill you if you didn't read the whole shit. Even if you read it, definitely gonna kill you too with kisses. See, the ways are different. It's so over the top in what it's aiming to do that it loops back around to just being extraordinarily pathetic for the person who wrote it. Like, it doesn't accomplish the goal. Like, I think it's so well, I guess it's not fully see-through since people did think that it was legitimately a bio that this guy wrote for himself. But I don't think that's the case. I'm pretty sure this is just a fake profile set up to get people to go to that Instagram of someone that I guess they don't like. So that way they, you know, shoot spitballs at him and throw tomatoes for such like a crazy, stupid bio that's cringe. But to me, the real cringe is whatever fucking loser wrote this bio in the first place. Like, it's not short. This goes on for 10 pages. And it's clearly not written by AI. This is written by someone who's borderline illiterate. They've got fucking smooth-brained Neanderthal noodle up there working with only a few neurons firing. It's such a tremendous waste of time that accomplishes nothing. Literally nothing. Because I bet most people probably just saw this profile pop up on their page, read the first paragraph, and then just moved on. And it was only this one person who was like laughing at them that they posted it online, and then other people laughed at them. But the Instagram handle is blacked out on all of it, so you can't even see who like the target of this profile even was in the first place. And even though I'm confident this is all written ironically, it is still such an unbelievably lame fucking thing to do that the person behind it is like, they should be ashamed. Like, the fact they even made this in the first place as a gag they thought was good should keep them up at night. I'm so humble, I don't care about looks, we all human, we have the badness and the goodness, it's our nature, not here to judge, kind philosopher I know, and you can write book about me, but you have to draw my dick after that. It's gonna take 2 pages though. Oh shit, too much information. And I do have thing for middle-aged ladies. Oh damn, you gorgeous ladies. Aren't you feel boring with your grandpa man of yours using pills? Take some young energy for real. Slowly, let me feel your lips moving on my sexy words. Really, I don't use this slow app full with ads, so let's get to know each other on Instagram. And then once again, listing the Instagram handle. I won't bother with the other like 8 pages here. It's just so fucking cringe to even take the time to do this. They mention the Instagram handle like 3 or 4 times, and then like a Telegram account as well. So even if it's not meant to like have people harass whoever's Instagram account that is, it's meant to somehow scam people in some way with the rage bait here. It's just so fucking degenerate. Like, it's a person on the other end of that. Like, they did write this. This isn't a bot, because you can't make bots this dumb. So yeah, I don't think this is legitimate. I don't think this person on the friend finding app exists. This is some weirdo that wrote this fake profile for them in order to get people to go attack some Instagram handle. I don't know why. Anyway, though, yeah, I just wanted to talk about it a bit. That's it. See ya.
Give me the link for the Elon talks.
What are the checks and balances that are in place to ensure that there is accountability and transparency?
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, we post our actions to the Doge handle on X and to the Doge website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent. In fact, I don't think
Totally. Virtually everything that they've tackled in terms of like combating weird spending habits or whatever are just things that the government spends money on that sounds stupid or is against like the Republican agenda, right? Or even if it's not something against the Republican agenda, the broader Republican agenda, they present it as though it is, right? They'll say like, oh, we're giving condoms to Hamas. That's like a great example of this, right? When that's not the case. Like, you're not going to be able to put a dent in American government spending that way when you're finding like $200,000 or $46,000 that was spent on one thing or $200,000 that was spent on another thing. The American government is major. It's massive. It's incredibly costly. And doing this in the stupidest ways possible without actually hiring regulators, ironically, that understand what these programs are, like with proper audits, with proper auditors, and trying to undermine it across the board is, of course, leading to all of these issues that you have seen so far with like mass layoffs or the threat of mass layoffs that don't make any sense whatsoever. Dude got checked by the judicial branch and called it a coup. Checks and balances don't exist with the guy. That's what I mean. And the last line of defense that barely exists now is the judicial branch saying, yeah, you can't just decide to lay off the entirety of the federal government labor force. Like, you can't do that. These are tens of thousands of people that rely on a paycheck from the government. That's so stupid.
And we're talking about billions of dollars that we've already found. We found fraud and abuse. I would say those two words as opposed to the third word that I usually
No, the condom story wasn't just condoms, and it wasn't. It was Mozambique, and it wasn't just condoms. It was a broader anti-HIV. It was a broader HIV prevention initiative that exists in Africa.
But we're talking about tens of billions of dollars that we've already found, and now a judge who's an activist judge wants to try and stop us from doing this. Why? And why would they want to do that? I campaigned on this. I campaigned on the fact that I said government.
Mozambique, Gaza.
And it is very corrupt.
Is it actually fraud, though? No, it's not. That's the problem. You can't just declare something to be a fraud because you don't personally like it, okay? The simplest example is contraceptives. Let's say that there's enough people within the Republican government that consider contraceptives to be unchristian-like. And there are plenty of people who think contraceptives are unchristian-like. You can't just say, oh, it's fraudulent to spend these pre-allocated funds on contraceptive programs in Africa in an effort to combat sexually transmitted diseases. Just because you don't agree with it doesn't mean it's fraud. It's ridiculous. This whole must purge is built upon a rhetorical sleight of hand that everything is everything I ideologically disagree with because woke and gay is per se waste, abuse, and fraud. And no one in our media highlights this massive category error that is actually kind of important.
Fraud and abuse, all of this horrible stuff going on. And we've already found billions of dollars, not like a little bit, billions, many billions of dollars. And when you get down to it, it's going to be probably close to $1 trillion. It could be close to $1 trillion that we're going to find.
No, that part is completely ridiculous. You are not cutting $1 trillion worth of government spending, okay? I wish.
We have a case in New York where a hotel has paid $59 million. $59 million because it's housing migrants.
Dude, additionally funny, Trump is saying this because he did this with the Trump hotels when he was president. He literally did this. He did this exact same thing with Trump properties while he was president. He would get Secret Service to stay in his own properties to pay exorbitant fees to his own properties. You will see it. America overspending issue is bad. You will thank future later. Elon, not perfect, but he's smart. Dog, I am not saying that the American government is not wasteful or even engaging in fraudulent activities. I'm simply stating that these guys are not actually tackling that. Okay? If they were looking at genuine fraud, they would end up harming a lot of their, important corporate benefactors. So, of course, they're not going to do that. They're not going to go after, for example, the military. Okay? You want to know how I know that they're not going to go after the military and fraudulent extra spending for no reason? Because Donald Trump has already said he's signing off on additional billions of dollars in weapons contracts to the state of Israel, for example. If they wanted to go after fraud and waste, they would not take out the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. How is that taking out fraud? That is an agency tasked with helping consumers and has helped consumers. They've recovered $21 billion of fraudulent and wasteful expenses that these criminal corporations have actually forced upon the American public. For the price point of $1 billion, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has actually given back to the American public $21 billion. You really think they're tackling fraud, or do you think they're making it easier to steal from the American public, to make it easier for corporations to keep grafting you? Yeah, Trump is moving to reverse medical debt and overdraft protections implemented by the CFPB. Wow, how wonderful for the American public. If only there were more people, and not just like random dumbass Twitch streamers like myself, actively talking about this every time they had an opportunity to talk about this, instead of talking about USAID and how we must defend USAID, and if we don't defend USAID, then China is going to take over. Like, instead of saying like that, maybe they should talk about this. The only other media outlets that I've ever heard this kind of commentary from is myself, Michael from Pennsylvania, Chapo Trap House, TrueAnon, and Majority Report. What is going on? Where is the Democratic Party? This is 100% an abdication of duty, okay? It shouldn't be up to Drop Site News, Majority Report, myself, and some others that are actively saying this is a ridiculous thing that they're doing. It is actually not beneficial for the American public. This is a horrible thing to do, especially when you have someone that is responsive to populist sentiment, okay? It's crazy to me that Hakeem Jeffries is not talking about this every goddamn day, okay? It's crazy to me that the Democratic Party is not going on every news outlet and saying, look at what they're doing. They claim to be on the side of the American public. Instead, they're just showing their bellies, dude. Chuck Schumer also said they're not going to put up a government spending fight as well, which I think is ridiculous. I think they are going to do that, I suspect. That would be insane.
Look, here's the bottom line. The Republicans are already shutting down good chunks of the government.
And no, this isn't hypocrisy baiting, chatter. What are you talking about? This is directly saying that the Republicans are currently actively doing harm to the American public. Do you understand? It's not about like, oh, look at the hypocrites. They said they care about the workers, but here's what they're doing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying communicate that they're harming the workers. This is more than hypocrisy baiting. Hypocrisy baiting is when you say that Trump's border wall is stupid and you're racist for defending it, and then turning around and being like, we are the ones who actually want to build the border wall. Trump doesn't want to build the border wall any longer. That's dumbass hypocrisy baiting. That makes you look like an idiot. That makes you look like you got caught, that Trump was right all along, that immigrants do constitute a national security threat, and that you got caught, and now you're going, oopsie, I guess we want to build the border wall now. Everyone can see that you're the hypocrite in that situation. You're the dumbass in that situation. Saying that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is actually responsible for $21 billion of fraudulent and wasteful and criminal expenditures that the American public had to pay for, the American consumers had to pay for, okay? And then turning around and abolishing that agency being an overall burden, directly talking about medical debt on your credit card, directly talking about overdraft fees, things that every single American can understand, because at a certain point, they have experienced this, okay? They've experienced these problems. They should remind people why they no longer experience some of these problems. It is because of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Same with Lena Khan and all of the initiatives from Lena Khan. Taking out Lena Khan is a massively consequential move. I'm more conservative. Serious question, because I honestly don't know. Are liberals thinking what they are claiming to find in USAID is lies? Liberals are saying that USAID is a profoundly important aspect of American foreign policy that works to continue American dominance by doing soft power initiatives around the globe. Some of those initiatives are actually good for the overall public that receives these initiatives, like, you know, reproductive health care in Africa is good. It's not a bad thing, okay? Even though it is done at the behest of the United States of America doing soft power in these countries, making these countries reliant on the U.S., and making those security cooperation agreements that come later down the line an overall easier one to sell to the broader public. Having said that, however, there is a lot of just insanity in the way that they're targeting things. Like, they'll just be like, oh, well, they're giving $40,000 to a Guatemalan transplant, and then you look it up and it's actually like a joint partnership agreement to fund the arts, okay, between a Guatemalan university and an American university. It's like, yeah, that's not fraudulent expenditure. I think a lot of these dummies also personally think that like anything that they're doing in terms of, you know, pro-LGBTQ or whatever is not done at the behest of like later utilizing these existing relationships as a way to destabilize countries, or at least like to have some kind of civil society organization on the ground to develop a better understanding, to do espionage if necessary. But instead, it's just because we're woke, and we're doing this because we're truly woke. It's a way to believe the propaganda that liberals have put forth. It's ironic because that means you genuinely believe that the American government is doing things because they're kind. You have to be a real dumbass to think that the American government is doing things because they're kind. Yeah, the American government is woke and gay. That's why they were doing aid. Ridiculous. They're doing aid so they can eventually utilize the existing relationships that they've developed on the ground for whatever suits their purpose. Also, none of it is fraudulent. As Adam Johnson mentions here, everything I ideologically disagree with because it's woke and gay does not mean it's waste, abuse, and fraud. Do you understand? Oh, well, I don't like this personally, so I think it's stupid and bad, and abuse and fraud is a ridiculous way to do this, okay? Unintelligent person alive. 3, if you're really implying that U.S. aid is not done out of pure goodness of the American heart, then name one thing U.S. did wrong in the last 50 years. I can't name one. There's nothing I can name in general that America has done in the name of good, okay? Even Ukraine is a great example of what I'm talking about. Ukraine is on the right side in terms of morality, okay? Ukraine has an understandable moral position to rid its national borders of a military invasion. America's interest in Ukraine, however, which Trump basically revealed openly, is not so good. That's it. You have to look at the situation and truly believe that America is always doing good things around the world for you to assume that their intentions with Ukraine is good, even if they openly state that their intentions are not pure. Their intentions are impure. It's also a short-sighted policy conservatives funding after-school programs for undeserved communities, DEI, and fraud, but the role of that program is to decrease incarceration, saving the state money. For example, it can also be self-serving. Yes, a lot of the initiatives like that, after-school programs and whatnot, seem costly, wasteful, and stupid. Like, they'll be like, oh, dude, they're doing violin, they're doing like musical education lessons in the south side of Chicago or whatever. And it's like, yeah, that is an incredibly important initiative. As studies have shown time and time again, after school programs actually significantly lower at-risk youth's likelihood to go and do crimes, okay? They're not doing it because they're woke and gay. They're doing it because it's obviously beneficial. It saves the government more money down the line as well if these kids are not doing crime, and then doing crime obviously is chaotic. They're stealing cars and whatever, or obviously you don't want like property loss in general for the broader public, but it's also better overall for the government now that you don't have to like put a bunch of children in the system at an early age. But that requires you to, one, do a little bit of reading in order to understand these initiatives and the long-term impact of said initiatives. That requires you to imagine an alternative instead of simply closing your eyes and going, nah, dude, I have these racist beliefs that these guys are intrinsically evil and inferior. I won't say that they're inferior because of their race. I'll say they're inferior because of their culture as a substitute for race, and that no amount of violent lessons is going to stop these kids from stealing Kias or whatever, when all evidence points to the exact opposite, that these initiatives are very helpful. Anyway, if only we could get Republicans to think that like the carceral state is woke and gay and incredibly costly. Anyway, here, there was a decent question here in terms of conflict of interest. But if there's a conflict of interest when it comes to you yourself, for instance, you receive billions of dollars in federal contracts, is there any sort of accountability, check and balance in place that would provide any transparency to the American people?
There's a conflict of interest when it comes to you yourself. For instance, you've received billions of dollars in federal contracts. When it comes to the Pentagon, for instance, which the president I know has directed you to look into. Yeah. Are you policing yourself in that? Is there any sort of accountability, check and balance in place that would provide any transparency for the American people?
Well, all of our actions are fully public. So if you see anything, you say like, wait a second, hey, you know what, that seems like maybe that's, you know, there's a conflict there. It's not like people are going to be shy about saying that. They'll say it immediately, you know?
Including you yourself.
Yes. But transparency is what builds trust, not simply somebody asserting trust. So not somebody saying they're trustworthy, but transparency, so you can see everything that's going on. And then you can see, am I doing something that benefits one of my companies or not? It's totally obvious.
And if we thought that, we would not let him do that.
No, you wouldn't. No, you are doing that. You literally brought up fraudulent and wasteful spending, talking about how the federal government offered millions of dollars to New York hotels in order to house migrants. That's not wasteful spending. That's the federal government actually trying to fix the crisis caused by Governor Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis by, without informing the local authorities, shipping, kidnapping, and trafficking tens of thousands of migrants from the state of Texas into the state of New York to play political football with people's lives. In that process, the federal government has to step in and say, okay, for the overflow, we have to, in the interim period, we have to make sure that these people are housed, okay? So what do? They pay hotels to house the migrants, okay? That is not wasteful spending or fraudulent spending. That's just an understandable thing that the federal government did. You know what is actually fraud? A conflict of interest? When you are the president and you own a bunch of hotels and you actually overcharge the federal government to stay in those hotels during the duration of your presidency, and you make money that way with federal funds. That's actually a conflict of interest. That's actually wasteful spending directly. That is a direct instance of fraud. That's what Donald Trump did. But of course, no one will look at that and go, what the are we talking about? Also, you got this. Elon Musk's pushing into the financial services with a Visa deal while immediately after taking out the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It's crazy. Source, not doubting you, have just never heard of this till today. Which one do you want to source for? Donald Trump charging the federal government or the thing that he just brought forward here? Trump overcharged Secret Service by 300% for accommodations at his hotels. House Oversight Committee's report further called the ex-president's term the world's greatest get-rich-quick scheme. It is such a transparent instance of corruption, too. It's crazy. Also, Donald Trump did a cryptocurrency rug pull, dude. What are we talking about? Elon admits he will tell some lies. Yeah, I mean, he's like, oh, my bad. Yeah, we dominated the media cycle for like 48 hours nonstop, but here's where we're at.
$50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza. But after fact-check this, apparently Gaza in Mozambique, and the program was to protect them against HIV. So can you correct the statements? It wasn't sent to Hamas, actually. It was sent to Mozambique, which makes sense why condoms was sent there.
Yeah.
And how can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes. I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about.
Got an enemy here. Now we begin.
Hostiles reclaimed the lead.
You remember that guy Milo Yiannopoulos? We haven't heard much from him. He was drummed out of the conservative movement for a while because it turned out that he was gay and married to a man, and they were looking for a way to get him out. And then he was like, he was basically sort of espousing that libertarian view that pedophilia is really just sort of is a social construct. I mean, it is, but it's not necessarily one that we should probably get rid of. Yiannopoulos is on with Tim Pool. And who's this guy?
This is Nick Ox. He is the founder of the Proud Boys Hawaii chapter.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, nice.
Excuse me. Formerly known as the Proud Boys.
Yes, right.
The not so Proud Boys. The Nazi Proud Boys.
Hawaii?
Not so Proud Boys.
Surf, you loser.
Yeah, right? How could you be unhappy and like angry in Hawaii?
Many of you know the backstory of Tim Pool's recent scandal, where it turned out he was getting millions upon millions of dollars from a company known as Tenet Media, which was a front group for, or a cutout, I guess as they say, for Russian intelligence. And which is not to say that Tim was told what to say, but rather that they enjoyed his commentary enough to support it beyond a typical membership level. And but here is this exchange, which is pretty funny because, you know, Tim wasn't the only person who got snowed by this. Dave Rubin did too. And that guy, Benny Johnson. Oh, right. They all made a ton of money, like just an enormous amount of money from the Russians unknowingly, because they didn't do due diligence per se as to where they were getting all this money. But this happened.
And just a content warning if you're listening at work, this is Milo, so you know the score.
This direction. What we have is an indicator in USAID that establishes $38 billion, mostly being used for the most ridiculous things you've ever heard of. It's all transsexual theater in South America. That's not just one thing. It's all that. Okay, cool. Not too surprising that this is connected to U.S. and foreign influence. My question is, how much money total of our entitlements is not just the classic welfare in the form of, say, food stamps, but grant money for just the most corrupt and ridiculous transsexual theater in regular America, not just South America, right? We need to find out what this final number is, because it's everything. The National Park Service came out.
I have a question. Pause it 1 second. We have to address the level of ignorance that was in there. When he says regular America, he's talking to about the United States of America. Regular America. That's honestly, like, I think, like,
says the Hawaiian Proud Boy.
The punchline of a joke in the past, but he's saying now we need to look into entitlements, which traditionally people have referred to as Social Security and Medicare, and he's now claiming that all that money is actually going to transsexual dance parties in regular America. This is a person who honestly, I think, like, in any other context, people would alert this person's relatives and said, like, you've got to come and pick this guy up.
Somebody watching this guy?
An episode.
I mean, by definition, Social Security and Medicare are in its own pool of money and can't go to the kinds of things that he's talking about. This is just like basic understanding.
Supposedly.
And relatedly, from earlier this morning, Trump has signed an executive order pausing enforcement of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which forbids companies in the United States from bribing foreign officials. So, I don't know, I guess this is not really about rooting out corruption in the federal government. I mean,
well, it's rooting out corruption in the federal government and transferring it over to corruption in foreign governments.
Okay, all right, just making sure I got this straight.
Theater in regular America, not just South America, right? We need to find out what this final number is, because it's everything. The National Park Service came out.
We're never going to get there. I have billions a year. I have a question for you and for everybody who's listening, or I should say I have a tip, I suppose. We know for a fact that there are many popular liberal podcasts that run nonprofits or have nonprofits buying ad spots.
There are any popular liberal podcasts.
Whatever you want to call it.
We're going to find out.
There are.
Remember David Pakman There's no popular.
So let me. This point I'm making is that.
Let me just take this moment to say that our membership and our subscriber numbers did not go down after the election. But go ahead.
Understood.
Ad spots. There are any popular liberal podcasts.
Whatever you want to call it.
We're going to find out.
Remember David Pakman There's no popular.
So let me. This point I'm making is that who is funding these shows and how are they being propped up? One, obviously YouTube is propping them up, despite the fact they're clearly not popular, as we just saw the results of the election. However, we do know that many of them sell ad space to powerful nonprofits. I believe that if you track the...
I doubt that Tim is talking about us, even though I brought this up with him and he was completely embarrassed by it. But You've heard our roster of ads today. One was an organization in Rhode Island that hires refugees to make granola. And the other was, what was it? A cleaning product.
I mean, is Give Directly what he's referring to? Or, well, I mean, we also had that Biden-Harris sponsorship where
a secret one.
We had
by a crusading journalist.
I mean.
As we just saw the results of the election. However, we do know that many of them sell ad space to powerful nonprofits. I believe that if you track the government spending through these nonprofits, you will find it goes from government to NGO into the hands of liberal pundits.
David Pakman.
I don't.
Now he might not even know, and that's the important thing.
Oh yeah, well,
no. Let me, this is important. You can accuse him of knowing. You can accuse him of intentionally taking money. My point is this.
Pause it for a second, right there. Now, the reason why Tim wants to have that clarification is because sometimes people like Tim end up getting paid by the Russian government and don't realize it. So just so you know, again, I also want to reiterate, we don't sell any ad space to any not-for-profit that is sponsored by the U.S. government. The only one I think is GiveWell, which is a charity navigator thing.
But and yes, we do not sell. That was facetious earlier. Any ad space for political campaigns or take money secretly, as Tim seemed to have done, and not disclose
Although
it publicly.
I might take ads and run them free for that guy running against Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco. But
yes.
That if you track the government spending through these nonprofits, you will find it goes from government to NGO into the hands of liberal pundits.
David Pakman.
Now he might not even know, and that's the important thing.
Oh yeah, well,
no. Let me. This is important. You can accuse him of knowing. You can accuse him of intentionally taking money. My point is this.
I would never accuse David Pakman of knowing anything.
Sure. There very well may be.
That was coming.
There very well may be individuals.
What happened with those guys? Did Pakman and Milo have Milo on recently and embarrass him?
It's just Pakman's thing after the election that they're talking about.
Knowing you can accuse him of intentionally taking money. My point is this.
I would never accuse David Pakman of knowing anything.
Sure. There very well may be.
That was coming.
There very well may be individuals who their ad person comes to them and says, this NGO wants to spend $100,000 in ads on your show, and they say,
you're doing that conservative thing of giving too much credit?
No, I'm saying in general, big picture.
No, they know exactly where the money's coming from. Dave Rubin knew where the money was coming from when it was coming from Russia. He used it to buy his children.
That is 100% false, and you know that ropes me into it, and I can verify it's 100% false.
All right,
completely untrue.
It is so,
and this is important big picture stuff because USAID is funneling money into NGOs.
Irresponsible in the extreme to the point of ludicrous negligence to not know where hundreds of thousands of dollars are coming from. To not even ask.
Oh, pause it for 1 second. Now, pause it 1 second. Now, let me explain to you what's going on here. Milo does not realize that Tim Pool was roped into this. And when Tim says you're roping me into this now, Milo still doesn't register. Yeah. Now, I just want to make this clear, just so that Tim has some cover in this conversation. Milo is saying it is the height of your responsibility to not know where hundreds of thousands of dollars are coming from. Just to be clear, Tim got over several $1 million. So maybe once you cross the threshold
no
of $1 million,
left.
You have less responsibility because it's no longer several hundred thousand.
It's called the responsibility donut hole.
There you go. Exactly.
Responsible in the extreme to the point of ludicrous negligence to not know where hundreds of thousands of dollars are coming from. To not even ask.
And that's not the story at all. So if you knew what you're talking about, maybe it sounds smarter.
All right. Well, I will.
But clearly, as the story has already been reported and you haven't read any of it, which involves me, which I find particularly insulting, is that certainly Dave, I, as well as Benny, did ridiculous due diligence in digging and trying to figure out what the source of the revenue was beyond your typical ad deal. So when I get an ad sale person who comes to me
Pause it for a second. This ridiculous due diligence involved demanding to see a colored PDF one-page CV of Mr. Edward Gregorian.
Yeah, we know it's ridiculous. That's why we're ridiculing you about it.
Yeah, I think he meant ridiculous the other way. So Is he? Is Milo trolling? Does he know?
No, Milo doesn't know.
I don't know.
Now Tim is getting offended.
He's a troll. He might. I mean, he's got those glasses on. He could be messing with them.
I don't.
I'm not ruling it out. I'm not ruling it out.
All right. Let's go back a little bit because I want to watch Tim get very, very angry. Tim thinks that Milo knows, but I'm pretty sure that Milo doesn't know.
I think you're probably right. I'm just saying it's possible.
Extreme to the point of ludicrous negligence to not know where hundreds of thousands of dollars are coming from. To not even ask.
And that's not the story at all. So if you knew what you're talking about, maybe you'd sound smarter. All right. Well, clearly, as the story has already been reported and you haven't read any of it, which involves me, which I find particularly insulting, is that certainly Dave, I, as well as Benny, did ridiculous due diligence in digging and trying to figure out what the source of the revenue was beyond your typical ad deal. So when I get an ad sale person who comes to me and says, this company I didn't remember that you were involved in that. This company wants to sell, they want to buy $100,000 in ad reads over this amount of time. No one anywhere in media says, tell me who their investors are, get me on the phone with him. And when this stuff went down, Dave, Benny, I, and many others said, we want to know what this is all about, who is this involved with, and when you get a prominent conservative
I just want to say, we've actually had sponsors who we found out that they had production facilities in the West Bank and cut them off.
Right.
Now, maybe that's different from who the investors are.
And even then, didn't that go through a third-party person with ads, right?
Oh, their broker came to us and said we were selling ads for them, and then we found out that they were doing business in the West Bank, and I went back to the broker. I'm like,
and it would be a little different if that company, which will go unnamed, was coming to us directly via, maybe, I don't know, Bradley, and saying, we're going to give you multiple millions of dollars, and you don't necessarily need to do an ad read. This is just to subsidize your show because we love it so much.
Oh, I wouldn't be suspicious of that at all. People do that every day.
Yeah, it's a normal thing.
It's a total normal thing. A couple $1 million, and you're just going to replay the show on your platform? Oh, okay.
And when this stuff went down, Dave, Benny, I, and many others said, we want to know what this is all about, who is this involved with, and when you get a prominent conservative personality based out of Nashville with an American company and says, here's the investors, they're going to talk to you, explain it, here's the proof, we go, okay, well, like a prominent conservative personality is running a company out of Nashville.
Lauren Chen.
Lauren Chen.
Was she a prominent personality?
Certainly was. Hundreds of thousands of followers on the Blaze. Everybody knew she was, and she had a story, and so we did some digging.
I've heard of her before this.
And so this is
I didn't remember you.
This is the big
remember you were
keep him up there and go back a little bit because this is where Milo backs off. Doesn't realize that Tim was going to be so sensitive about it. But we actually have a tape from Edward Gregorian who's talking to Tim. We just have the Gregorian side. Let's just roll that tape. Hello, is this Tim? Tim, it's Edward Gregorian. I'm here. Just wanted to call and tell you that the money is absolutely fine. Don't worry about the thing. I'm from Belgium, but if my accent sounds strange, it's because I moved around a lot as a kid. Army brat.
I'm the kind of person who, when a Blaze flunky tells me they have 600 or six-figure offers for me, I'm like, say no more, Lauren.
But Tim, I commend you for all the great work you're doing in investigating me. But I have to go now. Bye-bye. Great outgoing voice message you have.
You go, okay, well, like a prominent conservative personality is running a company out of Nashville.
Lauren Chen.
Lauren Chen.
Was she a prominent personality?
Certainly was.
So
hundreds of thousands of followers on the Blaze. Everybody knew she was, and she had a story, and so we did some digging.
I've never heard of her before this.
And so this is the point.
I didn't remember you.
This is the big.
I didn't remember you were a victim of that. So apologize for casting aspersions if that was your impression.
So to imply,
I didn't remember you were a victim of that. But
now let's go to the big picture.
Pause it for a second. It's interesting because Milo's just changed his whole tune. Literally 90 seconds ago, it was beyond the height of irresponsibility to not discover where hundreds of thousands of dollars came from. And now he's saying, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were a victim of that.
It's so funny. Tim just desperately wants to do all this dumb smearing of like, oh, look at all this political USAID money. That's just like subscriptions of people who work for the political.
Except for Tim has this big sort of monkey on his back, and Milo just basically, Tim was sort of like tiptoeing along the knife's edge. And I'm going to do this. I'm actually going to be able to deliver this, and no one's going to remember that I am actually the flunky.
Yeah, I'm the genuine article.
I am the genuine article of being bought and paid for. And Milo brings it up. I was a victim.
I apologize for casting aspersions if that was your impression.
So to imply,
I didn't remember you were a victim of that, but
now let's go to the big picture on USAID and other NGO funding.
Tim looks like he's
now
crying.
Certainly that affects us. When someone, I'll say it again, we right now have probably 30 advertisers who've come to us and wanted to buy ads, and we said we're in a holding pattern right now doing negotiations. They're offering us $50,000 sometimes for one ad read. One company says we'll give you $50,000 to promote our company. Do we say, I want the CEO on the phone, I want to know who funded them, I want to know where that funding came from?
I just want to make something clear here. This was not an ad buy. When we do an ad, it's quite clear who's paying for it. Now, if, for whatever reason, Hello Tushy has a secret agenda of selling a different bidet product from their rival, but they promote their own. But they have a secret, or maybe Hello Tushy buys an ad from us and they promote the bidet, but the reason why they're doing it is because they have a specific resentment against the toilet paper company and they don't want people to use toilet paper, or whatever hidden agenda is, that it's silly because it's laid out there. The problem with what Tim is talking about, he's comparing apples and oranges. It's one thing to have a sponsor that you think is problematic and decide we don't want it. Different, people have different sort of like thresholds in which they, we may not do any type of finance advertising. We may not do, but we'll do Seba-Day advertising. Okay, different people. This is funding that was completely hidden from the listeners and viewers of his program.
Yep.
To the tune of millions upon millions of dollars. And he never, he never revealed, like, we're getting this show is subsidized by blankety blank blank blank. It was completely unclear. Now, Milo seems to think it is completely irresponsible and doesn't believe that someone could actually be duped in that way. And I think that's a
fair assessment.
I think that's a fair position to have. But Tim is arguing that's not. But the weird thing is that Tim keeps changing the category of which he's talking about. Nobody said anything about advertisers.
But he's talking about USAID, and I guess this is just really just a quick brief aside. I sent this, Bradley, like the Barry Weiss tweet. This is like the end goal of all of this, is to make more news like Tim Pool, or to make more news like the Free Press, that Barry Weiss's outfit, where she's talking about NPR and PBS funding. Okay, it's just $535 million, she says, and she's basically casting aspersions on the idea that NPR and PBS should get public funding from the government. And they're using this veneer of corruption to make this argument, where the Free Press was literally invested in by Mark Andreessen and Andreessen Horowitz early on. What they want to do is create more and more incentive for private money to take over to take over our media institutions. When PBS is funded by viewers like you, instead they wanted to said funded by Palantir or something like that. What's more corrupting? Tax, like a set small amount relative to the federal government of tax dollars that are allocated towards this kind of media, or private for-profit venture capital money going towards these outfits? Which would you like to decide? Because the latter is when you get Barry Weiss or you get Tim Pool. Anyway.
Barry Weiss is partnered with a descendant of Henry Miller, the cattle king of California, one of the largest landowners of the United States.
Also financed by Harlan Crow, who, he's the guy who owns Clarence Thomas.
Anyway.
They're like Rogan is in on this too with Brett Weinstein. All of our people who criticize us are fake because they know that they are all they all have sugar daddies.
Yep. One ad read. One company says, we'll give you $50,000 to promote our company. Do we say, I want the CEO on the phone, I want to know who funded them, I want to know where that funding came from?
Nobody does that, but that wasn't quite...
And this is the point when I say about David Pacman.
Milo was about to say that.
I'm saying, when we know those things happen, take a look at where USAID was giving their money and see how much of those NGOs were buying ad reads in media because you know they are.
Well, you're not going to like this, but to take money from somebody so obviously ludicrously insubstantial as Lauren Chen and not ask more questions seems stupid to me.
Except there were questions asked.
I don't want to continue this because I'm not trying to attack you. I didn't remember that you were
the big picture is...
I didn't remember you were caught up in this.
When we have 30 sponsors, do you think it's reasonable for any media company to say get their investors on the phone, or do you only talk to their sales reps?
I've been interviewed once by Lauren Chen, and
okay, we're beyond that.
I certainly...
The point I'm making is no company, David Pacman, Kyle Kalinske, Dave Rubin, me, or otherwise, is going beyond the sales rep and their press.
Kyle is fully funded by subscription and doesn't take any advertisers and says it like every second that he can. So it's a horrible example.
So the NGOs haven't been able to get into him yet.
Yeah, he doesn't even do what we do with Hello Tushy. He doesn't do any ad reads.
Look at Tim Pool surrounding himself with other people to hide behind them when none of it applies.
Yeah. No.
None of it applies. And even Milo is like, how do I now navigate this thing where Tim is obviously full of excrement, but I don't want to offend him, and but I also have to maintain some personal integrity in this thing. And
can we just change the subject? That doesn't happen on podcasts.
Yeah, we shouldn't talk about this anymore.
For your sake, go ahead, Bradley.
No company, David Pacman, Kyle Kalinske, Dave Rubin, me, or otherwise, is going beyond the sales rep and their press kit to figure out that USAID or any other government or any other country is funneling things into media to prop them up.
At this size, no, that's true. At this size, that's true. But
not a single company does. Not single, I'll tell you, that absolutely is. So I bought billboards through Outfront Media.
I've bought billboards. I've done Times Square just like you have.
Absolutely, and never once in any of the ads that we've bought have they come to me and said, "We want your P&L, and we want to know if you have any investors, we want your board of directors." Nobody does it.
Nobody's saying that. I think you have to make room for the possibility, however, although you may have been taken in by a particular scheme, that other people went into it and were very happy not to look too deeply. I don't.
It's not the case for Dave Rubin.
Well, why are we stopping here? This is
have you considered?
An ad.
They got the guy with the same accent.
We're monetizing this. We can't really.
Oh, this is secretly all by like a hearing company.
Other people went into it and were very happy not to look too deeply. I don't.
It's not the case for Dave Rubin.
Well,
nor Benny nor me. You can speak of anybody else, but I can say for those guys.
I don't necessarily take the views of people who concoct Franken-babies for paying women to birth them as a high moral standard or.
Sure, but in this regard, I can tell you.
No, I don't really take his word for anything. I don't take his word for anything for all kinds of reasons, particularly how he treated me. He's a liar. He's a liar.
Sure.
He's a slippery, slimy, gross.
I can say in this one regard that involves me, it's not the case.
I don't.
Oh my God, he's so defensive.
People don't know, it's not an unreasonable supposition.
I have never ever contemplated. It has never occurred to me for a moment that I would like to have a conversation with Milo Yiannopoulos until today, at this time, when I would love to go deeper into his understanding of Dave Rubin, and also whether he actually, in this moment, genuinely believes that Tim Pool didn't know, or is just like, I don't want to burn this bridge. I'd be very interesting to hear about that. Go ahead.
one regard that involves me.
I don't know that. You may know that because you know things other people don't know. But it's not an unreasonable supposition that everyone did. Look, I think we can move on from this. It is no secret that a lot of bad money has gone to people on the right and on the center right, but it's typically the case that right-wing people will go and get investors rather than do advertisers, fake it till they make it, and then they'll get sort of the big ticket advertisers. So the way Ben Shapiro, the way Candace would get famous is they get Wilkes Brothers, or they get some other kind of billionaire money, and they buy engagement, they buy followers, and they sort of propel themselves to the top of the heap, and they fake it till they make it, and then eventually it's kind of sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Not everybody does that.
Everybody does not do that.
Well, we've never done anything like
everybody does not do that.
Pause it for a second. Interesting turn. Tim says, and we've been saying this about Ben Shapiro for a long time. They bought millions of dollars of Facebook ads several years ago, and it propelled them. Yep. And then Tim says, everybody does that. And then says, but I didn't do it. Everybody does that. And then realizes, whoa, wait, no, I didn't. That's fascinating. I will say right now, definitively, we have never done that. We did one ad buy for $1,500. Now, I've been meaning to do a second one for 6 years, and we're going to. But we just haven't gotten around to it.
Two people who did that, who are...
Go back. I want to see Tim's little turn. That's fascinating to me. Everybody does that. Oh, I didn't do it.
Do advertisers, fake it till they make it, and then they'll get, sort of the big ticket advertisers. So the way Ben Shapiro, the way Candace would get famous is they get Wilkes Brothers, or they get some other kind of billionaire money, and they buy engagement, they buy followers, and they sort of propel themselves to the top of the heap, and they fake it till they make it, and then eventually it's kind of sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Not everybody does that.
Everybody does not do that.
Well, we've never done anything like
everybody
that.
does not do that. I said two people who did that, who are demonstrably did that, right? I didn't say everybody did that. I never did that. When I was cancelled, I had the same number of followers as Ben Shapiro and everything. I was growing faster. He was growing more slowly, and 60% of his followers were fake. 100% of mine were organic. In fact, we ran things to get rid of the bots, right? So that's one of the reasons they took me out. I didn't say everybody did it, but those two did it. And so on the right, typically, people will take startup capital and they'll invest that way, and then they'll get the big advertisers that are safer, right? On the left, people will take money from pretty much anywhere. And they won't ask too many questions.
And all the billionaires.
Right, yeah, all the billionaires, all the big billionaires.
That's
hey, Mark Cuban, stop get into my DMs and asking me to give me money, please.
Reed Hastings just keeps giving me a direct deposit every
That was
That's
awesome.
great. I mean, Milo has some tea to spill. Wasn't he all across the Kanye and the...
Milo blew the whistle on Kanye's dentist, basically addicting him to nitrous oxide and wanting to have him lead a campaign to legalize nitrous oxide. Dose everybody else with it, too.
Just so you know who the Wilkes brothers are, turns out Dan and Faris Wilkes, their estimated net worth is, between the two of them, close to $4 billion. They sold a 70% stake in their fracking company, Fractech, for $3.5 billion in 2011. They were frackers. And they have acquired more than 670,000 acres of land in 6 different states. They are the nation's 12th largest landowners. There you go. I wonder why guys who are so interested in fracking would be excited to pay Ben Shapiro so much money.
They love to frack free speech, too.
There you go.
I just love it. It's fascinating to see Milo just state what we've all been saying about these guys, though, that they are artificially subsidized by oligarchy into your friends and family's brains, these idiots.
And it's a little bit different than fake it till you make it. It's not just about self-confidence. It's literally where you are propped up, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in the sense that you have been paid to have followers. You were paid followers, and then And you know what? They used to do this with book sales, too. They would push right when they probably still
Used
do.
to. I mean, these are
Right-wing
Republican books. Yeah.
they push these right-wing books up to the top of the charts by having institutional sales. The Heritage Foundation will come in and buy, 10,000 books in a day, and bingo, it goes right up to the top of the charts. But that was fun to watch. I may watch the rest of that.
Well, you have to do it on Rumble because they had to pull it down because I think Milo did something extremely racist. So they had to take it.
That's why that episode's not available
If you can
on
believe
YouTube.
it, yeah.
What? Seriously?
That's odd.
Turns out Milo did something bad.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out. The plan that is on the right, for lack of a better term, to undermine our government. We are seeing basically, broadly speaking, 2 or 3 different constituencies meld together. Heritage Foundation, longtime Republican conservative thinkers. Steve Bannon, a sort of like pseudo-populist, ethno-nationalist, or like hyper-nationalist, somewhat thuggy fasci, and this sort of tech bro fascist, monarchist, authoritarian impulse all come together with an agenda that they can agree on, that being the destruction of the administrative state. Tech bros want to sprinkle onto this like some type of AI, sort of futuristic vision. But at the end of the day, there's still this sort of like, from them, neo-Leo Straussian vision of them being in charge, a neo-aristocracy or neo-feudalism. And then also, there's this nice mixture of like a theocratic feudalism, which is really very similar. I mean, all feudal regimes that we've had for the most part in our history have been ultimately founded on the idea that, well, the king is there because of God. Not necessarily maybe the theocratic rule, but certainly the basis of their authority comes from God. So all of this is coming together. We're facing this dilemma. We have no legislative power. We have no real democratic leaders who are presenting themselves. There's a couple. And here is one person vying for that role of leader. He is the chair of